Long before AI had made them obsolete, the cities were on their way out. They had a good run. They had started at the intersection of trade routes during the First Age, the agricultural age. The first great cities started simply as places where goods were exchanged. Trade brought wealth, and wealth brought culture and architecture and the arts. In the Second Age, the industrial era, centralization was the key to manufacturing. People fled the farms for the cities, and steam and coal began to transform the world. In the West, life expectancy dipped for a few generations, then skyrocketed. Personal wealth grew generation after generation, and modern conveniences soon became available for just about everyone. Humanity was well into the Third Age, the Information Age, before people realized that no one needed centralized factories or office buildings anymore. From that point forward, all that kept a city alive was its culture. Take away the culture that built the city to begin with, then it's all over. If it was no longer safe to be on the streets at night, if the people that built the cities were told that those cities no longer belonged to them, and if the identity, morals, philosophy, and customs of their citizens were mocked, degraded, and demonized, then the cities no longer had a future other than being abandoned. And that's exactly what happened. People just left. The great American cities died not with a bang, but with a whimper. They ended not in fire, but in ice. With one exception. And that exception was Los Angeles. Like all of the other progressively governed, corrupt, incompetent metropolitan areas, the City of Angels died by its own hand. In 2020, riots broke out throughout the city and the nation. Entire business districts were burned to the ground, and it became clear right away that the city officials elected to protect the people of Los Angeles from assault, vandalism, looting, and arson were in fact on the side of the criminals, and not only did nothing to stop the destruction, but openly cheered them on from the sidelines. 5 years later, in 2025, that same incompetence, graft, and criminal neglect burned out the scenic heart of LA, Pacific Palisades, Malibu. That's when the death spiral really began. The people who lost their homes in the fires of 2025 couldn't even receive the permits needed to clear their own land for 7 or 8 years. So most of them simply did what so many others had been doing for the last decade. They simply left. City revenues declined. The response was to raise taxes even higher to make up for the shortfall. More people left. It's not that the city officials didn't know what they were doing. As long as they got their six-figure salaries and pensions, they just didn't care.
All right. Pause for dramatic effect. Hey, real. Hey, hi, that's right. Hi, Chloe. Yeah. Oh, I mean, real life's here. Okay, I thought that was because that was an AI generated, obviously an AI generated video. And I thought, oh, we have someone named Real Life here and I'm playing AI videos. So good morning, Carrie. Lucas, how you guys doing? Then they introduced communism, Real Life. Yeah, although I think it's been introduced already. But yeah, I think I like the way you're going on that. And hey, Chloe. So who else is here? Anybody? Carrie? Did I say hi to you already, Carrie? Yes, I did. Should have known you'd be the first one to check in, Carrie. So, well then, we're there. Yep. Yeah, I'd say we are. And it's funny. What is this? What do you got for us, Lucas? Probably a little off topic, but I took your advice and went back to my old church after 17 years. All right. To reconnect with my old pastor. I gave my number. Now the ball is in his court now if he wants. All right, Lucas. Good man. And you know, that's really what it is. The Bible tells us, as much as it is on you, as far as it's concerned, you be at peace with all men. It does say be at peace with all men no matter what, but as much as it's on you, and that's all you can do. And I think God's pleased with that, Lucas. Way to go. Thanks for sharing. Thank you for sharing that. That's very encouraging. It is. Um, so, um, yeah, I wanted to call this California stories, and I'm not. Yes, that's another part. Yeah, and which is part of the big C word you use there. So that worldview that should be dead by all accounts, the whole entire 20th century proved that world war. I think Milton Friedman once said, it's one of my favorite quotes. He said, "We fought a 45-year long Cold War to prove that capitalism and we proved without a doubt that capitalism is a much better worldview than communism, and we exposed communism for the absolute disaster of a worldview that it is. And as soon as we won that war, and as soon as we claimed victory, we said, we need more communism. We need more socialism. We didn't learn anything. So we're back to fighting that same battle again. So the reason I wanted to say that, and this video, thanks, Chloe, is by a guy named Bill Whittle, and I think I've talked about Bill Whittle before, and I'm not sure if I've used his videos, but I get a lot of my information from him. He's got a show called Right Angle with a couple other guys, and he's a former LA editor, producer, whatever, and they used to run Pajamas, PJTV, and all kinds of stuff. So he's a talking head. He's a YouTuber basically, but he's also an editor, and he put together this with AI. I think he said one man, 37 hours. He built this whole thing in 37 hours, and you could tell it's AI. You really can. Just that 8 minutes on a traditional way of filming would take 6 months, I'm sure. And I don't think he spent much money on it, $700, I think he said. So it's funny. This AI video he generated, and he even said that in the AI generated video that the cities were necessary and functional until before AI killed them. And one of the things that's going to kill LA is AI, because the film industry is one of the major legs holding up the LA stool. And that's pretty much going out now. That really that will be a big blow to LA. Full disclosure, I grew up in LA. If you looked at the scenes, LA is, if you don't know it, it's flat as a pancake for miles. It just spreads out flat. It's this big flat plateau. And up in the north, there's some hills, and on the coast, there's some hills. There's a big hill called the Palos Verdes Peninsula, which I grew up on. And the thing about LA, and one of the reasons I love San Diego so much is when I came here for college, I was a typical LA person coming to college to San Diego. I was going to go to San Diego like my brothers did, spend 4 years there, party, whatever, have a good time, because San Diego's basically a good time town, and then come back to LA and get serious about life. It wasn't long when I was in San Diego before I realized, wait a minute, this place is a lot better than LA. So the thing about LA is, I don't know if you did that, take that scene where all the fires are burning in the Los Angeles basin, they call it the LA basin. I couldn't tell you where that was. But if you did an overhead view of San Diego, and I could tell you, that's North Park there, and over there is University Heights, and La Jolla's down that way, up that way, and Chula Vista's down that way. I would know where it was. LA, a good friend of mine grew up in Downey, which is in the middle of LA. And I couldn't tell you where Downey was. It's out there somewhere. It's in that big mass flat area. And you only really know your own area. And where I'm from, the South Bay, I was born in Torrance, which is a city in the South Bay, and grew up in that what they call the South Bay. You only knew the South Bay. I hardly ever got to the Valley or to Burbank, Hollywood, Pasadena, because if you did, first of all, it was an all-day trip. That traffic being what it was, and that's the only way you can get around in LA because it's so massive. Is these freeways, and the freeways just have not kept up with the amount of traffic. So, anyways, all that to say, LA is a place that is, I think, as I'm seeing it decline, as I'm seeing my home decline, I'm not really emotionally attached to it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because those areas that are burning had nothing to do with me. And there's not a community sense in LA. There's no connection up there. The connection, any connection you have up there is either utilitarian, it's for you people using, it's manipulative. It's the whole thing of, hey, the whole Hollywood thing of, hey, have your people call my people. Yeah, we'll do that. I've actually been going through that the last few years with a project up there that we may all know about. So that's what you battle when you try and get things like we're trying to get going here. And I've had that in my previous business because it's that vibe of, hey, we're Hollywood, we're cool people. I'm more important than you. I'm more famous than you, right? I'm cooler than you. I'm more radical than you. That's the LA. I've got more money for sure. That's the big vibe up there. So now it's burning down. And for the second time this year, it's burning down. And, Palisades and that area, Malibu, Palisades, I don't even know where Palisades is. Malibu, I had no connection when Palisades, Pacific Palisades, and I think some of the areas by Pasadena, other than that's where Mike lived. He was very, very close. But those were not areas I would know at all. I think, oh, God, Palisades burning. I used to go to, I did used to go to Palisades once a year when I was in high school. I think I went 3 or 4 times to the LA Open, what's it called, the LA Open. But that was just go to a golf course, watch the tournament, and go home. There's no, like I said, LA is so disconnected and spread out that it just didn't, obviously I didn't like to see it, but it didn't mean that much to me. So, and now it's burning down. So I think it's uniquely, it's a city that's uniquely made for its own disintegration, not necessarily destruction, but its own disintegration. And because people aren't connected to each other there. And they're certainly not connected to the state, and they're absolutely not connected to their country. They are putting up with people running through the streets, waving Mexican flags and burning things down. That wouldn't happen here in San Diego. San Diego has a military background. It has a military foundation, which is much different than LA. LA grew a lot during World War II, but San Diego was made during World War II. My dad came out from Chicago through San Diego for the Navy and then went to the Pacific and fought in the Pacific. So that's why you don't hear about these things in San Diego. San Diego was the last of the cities on the West Coast to go blue. In 2018, San Diego flipped from red to blue. And I'm not saying it won't come, because we have all the problems that now that LA and San Francisco and Seattle and Portland have. We have all those problems now. We have needles in the streets and tent cities and hepatitis in the water, all that kind of stuff. And violent crime is growing, but it just never takes root here and goes off like it does in LA. And honestly, growing up in LA, even in the 60s, one of my first memory of LA is being on that hill overlooking LA, looking down and seeing smoke from the Watts riots. The first riot real big riot in LA back in 1965. I was 5 years old. So a 5-year-old boy looking over and seeing LA burn and being scared to death, but, and then I think the next big ones were obviously the Rodney King riots in early 90s, which were just the worst riots possible you can imagine. And now we have, obviously we had the George Floyd riots and now these riots. But I think that can only happen. It doesn't happen in San Francisco either. San Francisco has a vibe. It has its own vibe, a connected vibe, because everybody up there is nuts. They're hippie, loony, people of the different colored flag, right? But it's a vibe they have together. Portland, Portland's loony town, and they have all kinds of riots, but they have a riot so they can contain it to one downtown area. You just stay there. The same thing with Seattle. I think Seattle had that zone, but it doesn't spread throughout the city. Disasters don't. LA is the only city I know where, okay, what month is it? What disaster is going to hit us this month? And it's because LA is the city of no connection. And there's no pride in it, because it's all a facade, and it was built on this facade, on this 2D screen, this phenomenon of this two-dimensional screen that started back late in the 20th century, and that's what built LA, and that's what grew LA, was this pretend two-dimensional reality, non-reality, we call it. So, Chloe, yeah. Remember the Rodney King riots? They were bad. And again, part of the reason, the thing about having no connection is, if you remember the Rodney King riots, it wasn't white against black. It was brown and Asian against black, against Asian, against brown. It was an ethnic riot. It was tensions that had built up, spilled over. And if you remember what they call them, the rooftop Asians, right? All the Asian businessmen up on the roofs with guns protecting their businesses, because they weren't going after white people. That wasn't the issue. I mean, Rodney King was, beat up by some white cops, and they decided to riot, but they didn't go after the white community. They went after the simmering resentments, ethnic resentments they had towards one another. So that's why I think this happens in LA so much. It was built on that false, no two-dimensional, no depth of reality. I cannot imagine them in such a place as LA. It'd be torture for me. It might be, but then again, when it's good, it's a beautiful city. I mean, it's the coast. I always tell people that California is divided not in north and south, but it's coasts, right? And coast and inland. So that's the divide in California. The coast is rich and beautiful and scenic, and inland, you get inland 10 miles, and it's just flat and hot and dry. So parts of California, it's really, if you live on the coast in LA, it's really nice living. And Palisades and Malibu, I think, are really, that's why the rich people live there, right? Would say heard today, 300 illegals arrested out of those 130. Horrible repeated vendors from rape to murder. Yeah. So, that's my thoughts on LA. It's my home. It's where I grew up. And I've been thinking about why does this happen, and why does it happen in LA so much? It was kind of the thing that I can, and again, putting Christian perspective on it, I think the only thing I'm drawn to is the Bible verse that says, where there's lack of vision, the people perish. And LA doesn't have a vision. LA has an image, and that's it doesn't have a soul. It's got a, a headshot, I guess you'd call it. That's what's important in LA, not what you stand for. It's what you look like. Okay. It's not where you go and what you do. It's what car you drive when you go and what you make when you do it, how much you make when you do it. So LA is a two-dimensional phenomenon. There's no depth to it. And that's what makes it sets it apart from at least my area now, the San Diego area. But I mean, San Diego is going that way. But San Diego is a military community, first of all. And it's a beach community, which is kind of a chill, has a chill vibe, right? And nobody's trying to impress each other on a beach community. They just want to, hey, you do you, whatever. Peace, brother. So those kind of two things kind of mix well down here. But again, I say that these things, like I said, about 7 years ago, San Diego went blue. So these things, again, affect us, all of California. And the crazy, we're not immune to it down here. It's just harder for it to take root. But there is one other California story I want to share you, and it's been breaking my heart. The church that I used to attend has gone the way of the rainbow flag, put it that way. And it just goes to show that this just short view. It's a church my wife and I went to for years, and it's a fantastic church. It just really is. And it's very influential in the country. And if you are at a church that has video venues, then you've been influenced by this church. Put it that way. And we first went there about 17 years ago, and it was a conservative evangelical church, but within about a year, I started picking up that they don't want to be a conservative evangelical church anymore. And through several years and of talking to the pastors and listening to their sermons, and dealing with their staff and dealing with the people, we led small groups there, and I volunteered there for years, and my wife volunteered, and very active in this church. And I kept telling everyone, hey, I think they're going really progressive here. I think they're going liberal. And everyone's like, no, that could never happen here. I'm like, I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. I even talked to the pastors, and I said, I think you're going this direction. Is that true? And they first of all said, no, that can never happen. But then I pressed them a little bit, and they're like, well, yeah, I mean, we're doing, we're distancing ourselves from conservative Christianity, but we're not necessarily distancing ourselves from progressive Christianity. And I remember thinking, well, what difference does it, they were trying to go down the progressive road to hell in a different lane than, like, say, the mainline denominations, Presbyterian, Episcopal Church, Lutheran Church, Methodist Church, whatever. All those denominations long ago decided that they would distance themselves from conservative Christianity and embrace progressive Christianity. And now they are empty shells with, like I said, multicolored flags hanging in them, men in makeup dancing around. And I just said, what makes you think you can just pick a different lane? Because if they went down the mainline denomination, travel full speed down the road to hell, and you're going to go in the evangelical lane and think you're going to end up in a different place. No, you're not. And the people that you're trying to make yourself relevant to are never going to hear your message. You can try and be as appealing to them as possible, but they'll change you before you change them. And that's what's happening. So it's kind of coming to a head this week, and it's kind of a big deal around these parts, or it's going to be a big deal around these parts, put it that way. It's my little prediction hat I'll put on. And so I'm dealing with that now because I was meeting with a member of the staff, or actually a former member of the staff who just recently got let go. And he was looking at me and he said, Joel, how did you know this was going to happen? And I was like, I listened. I listened to the sermons and I took notes, and no one else seemed to see it. And I think that's what California is kind of about. It's this living in paradise idea, I guess. It's so nice around here, especially on the coast. You live on the coast of California, you don't live in the real world, and you don't have real world consequences of things. People who live in the Midwest have real world, and the East have real world consequences of weather and of logistics, getting things done, of bugs. I don't know whatever it is, right? Tornadoes sweeping through, all these things, big rivers, navigating ice storms. Life is somewhat challenging, even if you are in the information age and all the material benefits and things we have in this country. If you live in other countries where there's weather, basically, you still have challenges to overcome. But when you live in paradise, or you live on the coast of California, you just don't have, it's not reality. And so when you don't live in reality, you can't have an accurate vision, I guess, because where the people lack vision, where there's lack of vision, the people perish. And so even Christians, even a solid, wonderful church like this that was built into a mega church, is kind of the model of how people do. That was what the pastor who founded it did. We're going to change the way people do mega church. We're going to be the mega church model. And he did it. And that's what, God blessed. But now there came a point where they lost the vision. They were kind of steeped in this coastal California thing, even down here in San Diego County. And slowly but surely, I watched it for 15 years, 17 years. I watched it happen. And here they denied it. I talked to the pastors about it. They said, oh no, we'll never do that. We'll never do that. And now they've done it. So it's breaking my heart, but at the same time, I'm still praying for them. And there's still people, hopefully, on that staff that will resist it and maybe bring sanity to it. God will use them to make some kind of good of it. Even if the church eventually goes the way of all the churches that have done that before, there will still be a remnant. God will always have a remnant. I met with one of them yesterday. So, but it's a California story of a very influential church that started off great, grew for the right reasons, but then lost its vision. They got steeped in this Southern California aura, this, what do they call it? There's something in the smog maybe that gets into your brain and gets into your spirit. So, but anyways, I just want to share that with you, and we'll see where it goes. I'll keep you guys apprised. So what do you, get some comments here. It's a sin in spiritual chaos. It is. Yeah. AC, you're a little late, but welcome. Watch the replay or the online, so you can see what we were talking about today. It's problem, action, solution. Watch how fast new policy is put in place for the tighter surveillance and control. Yeah. So again, there's nothing new under the sun. That's another thing. This is just the way of man, the way of unregenerate man. This is the state of mankind, and this is the mankind that God chose to enter and become one of us and provide a way of redemption for us. And that, I suppose, is the real California story. It's the story, everybody's story, right? So I'm out of time. It went fast as usual. Thanks for listening, guys. I am going to probably see you tomorrow with Ben, hopefully. Okay, take care.